Reading chapter 8, Flies and Spiders of The Hobbit. We got cut off. I accidentally, when I was putting on my cardigan, touched the external keyboard, and that's what chops us off. So annoying, very annoying. I've been careful to avoid touching it, and it got us anyway. Just going to move it over here, out of the way. It really is quite an interruption when we were just in the flow, weren't we? Well, I'd already interrupted myself, but we were having such a good time. So it's still the 1st of September 2025, and the time is currently 2:08 Brisbane time. 2 hours in, by the gods. No wonder I'm getting tetchy and thirsty and, interrupt us, because I'm actually probably could have done with a break, but I've come straight back in because I'm on a mission and we're going to finish this chapter today. And part 1 is uploading as we speak, and hopefully it won't take as long because I'm doing this on my laptop, because the iPhone takes hours and hours and hours to upload and sends me into absolute berserker state. So it's all good, it's all happening in a far out way, and everything's lovely and Titania's realm, as long as you don't upset the fairy folk, you understand, or the spiders. But anyway, let us continue with the story. Just going to find where we were up to. Right, we got interrupted by my own, breaking up the birdie boys from killing each other, where Bilbo and the dwarves are down from the trees, but they're surrounded by hundreds of angry spiders, and although Bilbo's got his little sting sword and is killing as many as he can, it says here it looked pretty hopeless because they're surrounded, you understand. Then the battle began. Some of the dwarves had knives and some had sticks, and all of them could get at stones, and Bilbo had his elvish dagger. Again and again the spiders were beaten off, and many of them were killed. But it could not go on for long. Bilbo was nearly tired out. Only 4 of the dwarves were able to stand firmly, and soon they would all be overpowered like weary flies. Already the spiders were beginning to weave their webs all round them again, from tree to tree. In the end, Bilbo could think of no plan except to let the dwarves into the secret of his ring. He was rather sorry about it, but it could not be helped. "I am going to disappear," he said. "I shall draw the spiders off if I can, and you must keep together and make in the opposite direction, to the left there. That is more or less the way towards the place where we last saw the elf fires." It was difficult to get them to understand, what with their dizzy heads and the shouts and the whacking of sticks and the throwing of stones, but at last Bilbo felt he could delay no longer, and the spiders were drawing their circle ever closer. He suddenly slipped on his ring, and to the great astonishment of the dwarfs, he vanished. Soon there came the sound of "Lazy Lob" and "At a cop" from among the trees away on the right. That upset the spiders greatly. They stopped advancing, and some went off in the direction of the voice. "At a cop" made them so angry that they lost their wits. Then Balin, who had grasped Bilbo's plan better than the rest, led an attack. The dwarves huddled together in a knot, and sending a shower of stones, they drove at the spiders on the left and burst through the ring. Away behind them now, the shouting and singing suddenly stopped. Yes, you're stuck in your cage, Kermie, because you behaved badly with Bo. That's how it's going to be. You behave badly, you get time out. Manawatu has spoken. Away behind them now, the shouting and singing suddenly stopped. Hoping desperately that Bilbo had not been caught, the dwarves went on. Not fast enough, though. They were sick and weary, and they could not go much better than a hobble and a wobble, though many of the spiders were close behind. Every now and then they had to turn and fight the creatures that were overtaking them, and already some spiders were in the trees above them and throwing down their long, clinging threads. Things were looking pretty bad again when suddenly Bilbo reappeared and charged into the astonished spiders unexpectedly from the side. Go on, he shouted. I will do the stinging. And he did. He darted backwards and forwards, slashing at the spider threads, hacking at their legs, and stabbing their fat bodies if they came too near. The spiders swelled with rage and spluttered and frothed and hissed out horrible curses. But they had become mortally afraid of sting and dared not come very near, now that it had come back. What are you doing, Kermie? What are you doing? Acting very weird. What's going on in your little birdie brain? You go out in the sunshine when the sun shines, and not before and not a moment too late. The sun's gone behind the clouds again. It's gone all bleak and horrible. I think it's going to rain. Let's go and swing. Work out your energy that way, my boy. Swing it. Oh, he's really going for it, isn't he? Oh, well. So, curse as they would, their prey moved slowly but steadily away. It was a most terrible business and seemed to take hours. But at last, just when Bilbo felt that he could not lift his hand for a single stroke more, the spiders suddenly gave it up and followed them no more and went back, disappointed, to their dark colony. The dwarves then noticed that they had come to the edge of a ring where elf-fires had been. Whether it was one of those they had seen the night before, they could not tell. But it seemed that some good magic lingered in such spots which the spiders did not like. At any rate, here the light was greener and the boughs less thick and threatening, and they had a chance to rest and draw breath. There they lay for quite some time, puffing and panting, but very soon they began to ask questions. They had to have the whole vanishing business carefully explained, and the finding of the ring interested them so much that for a while they forgot their own troubles. Balin, in particular, insisted on having the Gollum story, riddles and all, told all over again, with the ring in its proper place. But after a time, the light began to fail, and then other questions were asked. Where were they? And where was their path? And where was there any food? And what were they going to do next? These questions they asked over and over again, and it was from little Bilbo that they seemed to expect to get the answers, because he's magical now that he's got the power of disappearing, you understand? Oh, suddenly he's their new leader. For one silly little trick that isn't even his, but the ring's. Funny that, isn't it? How human nature operates. These questions they asked, we said that, from which you can see that they had changed their opinion of Mr. Baggins very much, and had begun to have a great respect for him, as Gandalf had said they would. Indeed, they really expected him to think of some wonderful plan for helping them, and were not merely grumbling. They knew only too well that they would soon all have been dead if it had not been for the Hobbit, and they thanked him many times. Some of them even got up and bowed right to the ground before him, though they fell over with the effort and could not get on their legs again for some time. Oh, that's sweet, isn't it? They were so weakened, but they still showed him honour. Lovely. Knowing the truth about the vanishing did not lessen their opinion of Bilbo at all, for they saw that he had some wits as well as luck and a magic ring, and all three were useful possessions. In fact, they praised him so much that Bilbo began to feel there really was something of a bold adventurer about himself after all, though he would have felt a lot bolder still if there had been anything to eat. But there was nothing at all, and none of them were fit to go and look for anything or to search for the lost path. The lost path! No other idea would come into Bilbo's tired head. He just sat staring in front of him at the endless trees, and after a while they all fell silent again, all except Balin. Long after the others had stopped talking and shut their eyes, he kept on muttering and chuckling to himself. Gollum! Well, I'm blessed. So that's how he sneaked past me, is it? Now I know. Just crept quietly along, did you, Mr. Baggins? Buttons all over the doorstep. Good old Bilbo, 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 Bo, Bo, Bo. And then he fell asleep, and there was complete silence for a long while. All of a sudden, Dwalin opened an eye and looked round at them. "Where is Thorin?" he asked. It was a terrible shock. Of course, there were only 13 of them. 12 dwarves and a hobbit. Where indeed was Thorin? They wondered what evil fate had befallen him, magic or dark monsters, and shuddered as they lay lost in the forest. There they dropped off, one by one, into uncomfortable sleep, full of horrible dreams as evening wore to black night. And there we must leave them for the present, too sick and weary to set guards or take turns at watching. Thorin had been caught much. Can't find it now. Here it is. Aha. Thorin had been caught much faster than they had. You remember Bilbo falling like a log into sleep as he stepped into a circle of light? Circle of light. The next time it had been Thorin who stepped forward, and as the lights went out, he fell, and yet it goes to the back again. Why? I'm going to have to fix these. It's driving me mad. Driving me mad? They're not perfect, and so they will drive me mad. The next time it had been Thorin who stepped forward, and as the lights went out, he fell like a stone, enchanted. All the noise of the dwarves lost in the night, their cries as the spiders caught them and bound them, and all the sounds of the battle next day had passed over him unheard. Then the wood elves had come to him and bound him and carried him away. The feasting people were wood elves, of course. These are not wicked folk. If they have a fault, it is a distrust of strangers. Though their magic was strong, even in those days, they were wary. They differed from the high elves of the West and were more dangerous and less wise. For most of them, together with their scattered relations in the hills and mountains, were descended from the ancient tribes that never went to Fairy in the West. There the light elves and the deep elves and the sea elves went and lived for ages and grew fairer and wiser and more learned, and invented their magic and their cunning craft in the making of beautiful and marvellous things, before some came back into the wide world. In the wide world, the wood elves lingered in the twilight of our sun and moon, but loved best the stars, and they wandered in the great forests that grew tall in lands that are now lost. They dwelt most often by the edges of the woods, from which they could escape at times to hunt or to ride and run over the open lands by moonlight or starlight. And after the coming of men, they took ever more and more to the gloaming and the dusk. Still elves they were and remain, and that is good people. In a great cave, some miles within the edge of Mirkwood on its eastern side, there lived at this time their greatest king. Here comes the rain. Rain is good, feeds the ground. Before his huge doors of stone a river ran out of the heights of the forest and flowed on and out into the marshes at the feet of the high wooded lands. This great cave, from which countless smaller ones opened out on every side, wound far underground and had many passages and wide halls, but it was lighter and more wholesome than any goblin dwelling, and neither so deep nor so dangerous. In fact, the subjects of the king mostly lived and hunted in the open woods, and had houses or huts on the ground and in the branches. The beeches were their favourite trees. The king's cave was his palace and the strong place of his treasure, and the fortress of his people against their enemies. It was also the dungeon of his prisoners. So to the cave they dragged Thorin, not too gently, for they did not love dwarves, and thought he was an enemy. In ancient days, they had had wars with some of the dwarves, whom they accused of stealing their treasure. It is only fair to say that the dwarves gave a different account and said that they only took what was their due, for the elf king had bargained with them to shape his raw gold and silver, and had afterwards refused to give them their pay, which is incredibly rude and dishonest and dishonouring. It's hard work shaping raw gold and silver, melting it and making it into beautiful things. Ask me how I know. Maybe I'm part dwarvish as well as being a hobbit. Well, I've always loved beautiful jewellery and wonderful artistic things. Look at my boy go. Look at him go. If the Elf King had a weakness, it was for treasure, especially for silver and white gems, and though his hoard was rich, he was ever eager for more, since he had not yet as great a treasure as other elf lords of old. His people neither mined nor worked metals or jewels, nor did they bother much with trade, or with tilling the earth. All this was well known to every dwarf, although Thorin's family had had nothing to do with the old quarrel I have spoken of. Consequently, Thorin was angry at their treatment of him when they took their spell off him, and he came to his senses, and also he was determined that no word of gold or jewels should be dragged out of him. The king looked sternly on Thorin when he was brought before him and asked him many questions. But Thorin would only say that he was starving. A bit peckish myself, to be honest. This cold, rainy, bleak day. I've been sitting here craving butterscotch pudding, Dutch pancakes called profiteroles, thinking of all the things that I might make when I finish the story, people there. None of them particularly healthy, I might add. But anyway, it is what it is. Pudding on a cold, bleak day is always hobbity. Why did you and your folk 3 times try to attack my people at their merrymaking? Asked the king. We did not attack them, answered Thorin. We came to beg because we were starving. Well, where are your friends now? What are they doing? I don't know, but I expect starving in the forest. What were you doing in the forest? Looking for food and drink because we were starving? He loves that swing, doesn't he? It's a sight to behold. He really loves it. But what brought you into the forest at all? Asked the king angrily. At that, Thorin shut his mouth and would not say another word. Very well, said the king. Take him away and keep him safe until he feels inclined to tell the truth, even if he waits 100 years. Then the elves put thongs on him and shut him in one of the inmost caves with strong wooden doors and left him. They gave him food and drink, plenty of both, if not very fine, for wood elves were not goblins and were reasonably well behaved, even to their worst enemies, when they captured them. The giant spiders were the only living things that they had no mercy upon. There in the king's dungeon, poor Thorin lay, and after he had got over his thankfulness for bread and meat and water, he began to wonder what had become of his unfortunate friends. It was not very long before he discovered, but that belongs to the next chapter and the beginning of another adventure in which the Hobbit again showed his usefulness. So, the Mamati, the Tanya, will be back tomorrow with chapter 9, Barrels Out of Bond. So, wherever you are in the space-time continuum, here on planet Earth or wherever these videos get bombarded across time and space, if they do, I'm never sure how it works. But satellites, bouncy things out into the ether, you understand? I think that's why 3i Atlas is coming to check us out. because, you know, they have a theory that it would have left the Oort sector round about the time we sent up the first nuclear blast with Oppenheimer. I am death, destroyer of worlds. Words to that effect. Anyway, gives you pause for thought though, doesn't it? The timing of it all. The timing. Anyway, on a happy note, my little Kermie is swinging, little Bo is singing, I'm chilling, thinking about what to make for lunch, and I think I might actually make poffertjes. I haven't made them in a few years. I'll have to scrub the cast iron pan I make them in because it hasn't been used in a long time. But anyway, it's how I know it's been a while. And that might be nice and salubrious. Dutch little pancakes. And yeah, food, glorious food. That's all I can think of all day, on and off. Food. But I had a little bit of leftover chicken for my meal last night, and I had Weet-Bix for breakfast. It's not a lot of food, and I am quite peckish now. I'm eating a lot lately, though it's not good. Well, hopefully once the weather starts heating up again, my appetite will settle back down to its usual voluptuous habits, but not to excess, because that needs to be quelled somehow. I'm not quite sure how. It's a bit out of control after that last illness, losing it for 2 weeks. Anyway, is he spinning that in circles? Let's have a proper look. Side to side, up and down. It's almost circling. You're a clever birdie boy. Yes, you're making that swing do all sorts of interesting things. Wow. Very talented you are. All right, my beloved ones, have a beautiful day wherever you are, and be blessed, be happy, stay healthy, and stay wild, and stay free, and be good and kind to each other, and take joy and delight in each day that the gods present to us. And yes, love to you all. Bye for now.